All right, and a story that actually is breaking. Mykel Williams, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, is done for the year. Where do the Niners go from here? What does it all mean? What did they lose? What does it mean on the trade front? We got a lot to get to. It's a Monday. Don't normally stream in this window, but let's go. Welcome to the Krug Show, everybody. Hit the band. Let's fire up the midday band. Hope everybody's having a good one. Happy November the 3rd. Yes, it's November. Unbelievable. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, to say it again, reporting Mykel Williams, torn ACL, done for the rest of 2025. And this is a huge, huge kick to the gut for the 49ers. Not because Mykel Williams is Nick Bosa. He's not. Not because he's like some all-world unbelievable. He's a really good prospect. It's really just because he was doing a lot. He was playing a ton. They lose a guy that was playing a ton of snaps and giving them a lot of good snaps. So that's really the thing. It's like, has he been the pass rusher that, well, you know what? No. It's going to take some time. But he's won me over, and I was not for the pick. Why have I been won over by Mykel Williams? Okay, at his core, I think he really loves football. 1. 2, at his core, he's a really strong guy who can play inside. And then talking to Robert Saleh, just about how he sees it. And if you think about value, interior rushers are the most valuable guys in the sport. They get paid tons. So finding them is really, really hard. It's just hard. Why? Because it's just a unique body. There aren't that many human beings walking around that are 285 pounds or more and can run and move and are strong and can hold off 2 offensive linemen sometime, one with this arm, one with that arm. I mean, that's literally the job. I mean, he's literally like locking out. So they lose a lot. This is a kick to the gut. And once again, he's not Bosa. He's not Huff. He's not that sack master. But what he is just a really great athlete who can play inside or outside, right? He's got that versatility. And you can play all kinds of games with him. He's a really good interior rusher. He'll heal. He'll get better. He'll be back. He'll be better than ever, I'm sure. Modern medicine. It's not like his career's hanging by a thread. It's not. It's just a really bad break, and he knew it. He knew it, too. He pounded the ground. The guys always know. They always know. Most people know their own body, right? If it's like, oh, it's major, or, it's not that big. And so he knew. And like Bosa knew. Bosa, gave his family, looked up at the booth, and he's like, gave his family the thumbs down. And man, because these guys know themselves. They play. This is what they do. They're professionals. They've been playing ball for a long time. They take a lot of hits to the knees. There's all kinds of close calls, and they know when they're done for the year. And he made that kind of the way he pounded the ground. And the one thing I know about Mykel, I've talked to him a few times. He's not some drama guy. He's not one of those guys. Oh, he's going to pound the ground, but then miraculously he comes back. No, he is a old school tough guy. That's what he really is. He's tough. To me, if you say what's his greatest trait, tough. He's tough. He's a tough guy who's got a great body for the game, and he's going to be really good. I think he's probably going to put on 10 to 12 pounds. You'll see him next year. My guess is a little heavier, and I think he could be a really good player. But it's going to be in a rotation. It's going to be, it's going to be like, when they grow up the line around him and he's got a lot of bodies around him, then he's going to be wrecking shop in the middle of it. And people will argue, man, this guy might be the best guy on this line. But he needs to be surrounded by real edge rushers and, maybe 1-2 gapper, inside, and who he could play off of, a little bit broader. He's almost like the interior speed guy. But he showed a lot this year. Now, I'm going to show you his I'm going to share the screen here, and we'll show you his game log. We'll take a look at it for ourselves. And it's not that impressive, to be honest. I mean, let's see. He played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's played every game. He's played 9 games. And he's got 20 tackles. So, I mean, do the math. 11 solo, 9 assists, 1 sack. 3.5 run stuffs, what they call run stuffs. No forced fumbles, no fumble recoveries, no interceptions after the no touchdowns. So there you go. Clean across the board after that. So that's what he did. 9 games, 20 tackles. But see, the stats oftentimes in football don't tell the story, and they really don't tell the story on the line of scrimmage. That's why PFF, if there's anything that I'm looking at PFF and I'm like, no, I don't believe in PFF. Sometimes it's their offensive line, some of their offensive line stats. I mean, they've had Brendel graded out really, really highly, and Niners can't run in the A gaps in short yardage or on the goal line. So I don't know if I could put my center, highly rated when I can't get any pop in the run game, and then he's struggling against the bigger guys and the faster guys in pass pro. So but he is a smart guy. He doesn't make all the right calls. I understand why Furster likes him. He's more dependable. He's got more experience. I get it. A little pull of water. All right. Well, let's back to Mykel. It's not a great stat list. I mean, that's the sack that he got was against Tampa. It's not great production for sure. 9 games, 20 tackles, and 1 sack. That's not like whoa. But as I'll argue, even though I didn't love the pick on draft day, I can appreciate how this player fits on a championship caliber defense. And he's not a stat filler. You know what I mean? These stats kind of reveal to some degree why a Bethune had 16 tackles. And because this guy is absorbing offensive linemen, and Bethune's legs are free to run and hit. Same with Fred, same with Greenlaw before, same with Aziz before. I mean, that's what the Niners want. They want to keep those second level. They want to be able to rush the passer up front, but they also want to keep the second level, defenders clean so they can run and hit. Because that's the way this defense, you got big gaps in a wide 9, and those linebackers have to be free to run and hit. If they start getting picked off by guards and the other team starts running the ball, you're cooked. You're cooked. So Mykel Williams is one of those guys that can be both, right? He can rush the passer from inside and give you that quickness that you need, but then he can also be stout enough to play the run inside. And if not make tackles, at least, hold his ground against two blockers, clog things up. He's got to get better at getting off of blocks. He's got to get better at, using his hands and not just winning with the initial move, but to work back. I feel like his motor, he stops driving the legs after he doesn't win with his initial thing. So it's like some guys never stop moving, and that's the ideal. Never stop moving. Keep your legs moving. Keep those legs moving. Watching practice, Chris Kasarik, who's I think one of the best coaches ever. I mean, he doesn't hide anything. They play really loud music at practice. They do it even all the time. They do it to try to buffer the media from the conversations between the coaches and the players. They don't want us to hear the dialogue, right? They don't want us to hear the instruction because they want to be able to say everybody's looking great. They want all that private. So they keep the media a certain distance away, and they play the music really, really loud, even when there's no fans there, just loud music going. Now, it's partially to mock up the stadium experience because that's what it's like in the stadium, but it's a lot to keep that buffer of noise so we can't hear what they're saying. But Kasarik is so damn loud that he yells over it. And as I'm watching the D-line drills all summer long, and you hear him just saying to Mykel, keep going, same to Alfred Collins, keep going. Because, in college, those guys are so talented, they win with their initial move and they're home. In the NFL, these athletes on the offensive line, these blockers are so athletic that even if you beat them, they can come back and beat you later in that same play because they're going to be able to recover. So it's just, you got to keep your feet driving. And sometimes I think Beal doesn't do it, Mykel doesn't do it, Alfred doesn't do it, and they just, Chris is just trying to get these guys to keep it rolling. Basically just never stop until you hear the whistle, and just keep going after that quarterback, because I think you're not going to win with your initial move a lot. So there you go. Mykel Williams done for the year. What does it mean for the 49ers? Well, it means a lot. It means a lot. It's a major, major blow for the 49ers. There's no question about it. We could sit there and say, it's not that big a deal. It's a huge deal. Even the criticisms I've had of Mykel as a player, you're still losing a young, strong defensive lineman who has been playing a huge amount. How right before we went live here, Kev gave me a stat that I didn't realize from the game that somebody had put out there. Keon White, I think Cam Inman had this. Keon White played the third most snaps of any of the 49ers defensive linemen. He just got here on Wednesday. The guy trotted out, shook everybody's hands, and then he went in the game and played the third most snaps of any defensive lineman. That's their need. That, if nothing illustrates that, and of course the Mykel Williams injury directly impacted this, as did the fact that Bryce Huff remains out. He should be back this week against the Rams. That will be huge. But is it enough? This is almost like it's almost like the trade deadline came at the perfect time, because it really makes who stands between the 49ers and being the NFC representative in Super Bowl 60. I know people are like, Krug, my God, they have no Warner, they have no Bosa. This is not a Super Bowl team. Look at the rest of the teams. Tucker Kraft, done for the year. Packers just lost their all-pro tight end, or soon-to-be all-pro tight end, probably Pro Bowler. I don't know what he was last year, but he's great. He's one of the great players in the league, whatever his designation is in the Pro Bowl. But he's a great tight end, done for the year. So, teams, Ed Oliver, Buffalo's best front seven player, done for the year. It's a war of attrition. You got to keep going. The Super Bowl's at Levi's. The NFC teams are all flawed, including the Niners. But what do the Niners have? They have Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan and George Kittle and now Mac Jones. They may have two quarterbacks that can process, a great offensive play caller in Shanahan, and you've got the world's best tight end. You got the world's best left tackle. You still have some of the best players. You got Christian McCaffrey on your team. You've got some advantages. It's not unbelievable or unrealistic or unimaginable that the 49ers could get into the NFC playoffs and go to the Super Bowl. It's very, very possible. So I love that the trade deadline's this week, because the Rams are coming up. And to me, it's the Rams. I know a lot of people talk about the Eagles and this and that. I think it's the Rams. The Rams are the team that stand between the Niners and the Super Bowl. Stafford can throw for 400 yards, and their defense can hold you down. That game, the first game, the 49ers, played a perfect game, absolute perfect game that day, and edged out a victory. But you got the feeling that the Rams weren't necessarily playing their A game that night. It just didn't look like it. So we'll see. I think this is a great one. Ask yourself the question, what do you want to do at the deadline? Well, how do you want to go up against this team, this Rams team that has Stafford and Puka and Devontae, and Kyron Williams, and they're all playing well? Do you have enough defensively with Sam Aquinu? You don't have Mykel Williams. You're going to have Bryce Huff coming off an injury, but who knows? He could have a recurrence of that the first step. And then you have Keon White and Robert Beal. And that's it. That's it. That's everybody. And you've got on your practice squad, you've got Cleve Farrell for 3 games, and William Bradley King, who, by the way, don't sleep on him. He actually has a knack to rush the passer. If you get a chance, go watch the interview I did with him on YouTube, but go watch his highlights from college. He's a good player. Number 69, William Bradley King. So there you go. That's what they got. William Bradley King. Clee Farrell, by the way, looked great in this game. I mean, if there's any good news here, is that Clee looks good. Fresh, rested, rolling. He looked good at practice. I was like, whoa, this guy was on the street. Why didn't you call this guy 3 weeks ago? Did anybody work this guy out? I mean, wow, he showed up. He looked like he was in midseason form. In some ways, he looked better than he did when he was here last time in 23. And he was a key cog on their defensive line. They lost a lot when they lost Clee Farrell to their run defense. He knows how to play. And he's got a little JYD, as they say, a little junkyard dog. Clee knows how to play and is motivated. And it ain't Chase Young speed. It's like 5 times that speed. He's got a great motor. He's the anti-Chase Young. Chase Young should have been called just Young because he never chased anything, at least not in San Francisco. He did on Super Bowl Sunday show up after he got embarrassed by not showing up. And I mean, dude, you're dogging it in the NFC Championship game. You want us to ignore that? Unbelievable. Anyway, different show, different topic. But that's where they're at defensive line-wise. No Mykel Williams. So you got Sam Aquinu, Keon White, Bryce Huff off an injury, Robert Beal. Let's talk about Robert Beal for a second. I thought he made some breakthroughs, believe it or not, at practice last week. But I'm probably wrong. He's 6'4", 260, and he just doesn't do it. It just doesn't happen. He's 6'4", 260 with 4.4 speed, but there's just a little too much wiggle and not just straight. They're trying to streamline they're trying to cut all the junk out of his rush and get him to streamline. He's got 4.48 speed at 260 pounds. He's a revelation on special teams. I mean, Brant Boyer loves Robert Beal on special teams because he's just a big, fast guy. I mean, he's huge and he's fast, but it doesn't translate to defensive end. So you can't really depend on Beal. And if you are depending on Beal, I mean, man, you're really dangling there. And then Keon White is, kind of a tweener. He's not really, he's more of an interior. I would like to see them use Keon White more inside as a rusher because I think he might be better suited there. Outside, he looked kind of ordinary. You got Givens inside, who's always been a good pass rusher. Kalia, of course, and Jordan Elliott inside, and Collins. So inside, you're a little bit more fortified. So much so that CJ West has been inactive. And also CJ's got the club because of the broken thumb. And broken thumb, broken hand are different. People are like, well, why is he not out there? Well, he's got a broken thumb. It's just different. It's a worse injury. You can play with the broken hand, I think, a little bit easier than the broken thumb. So he's out. So he's not usable right now. But you got Collins, Givens, Kalia, and Jordan Elliott, and CJ when he gets back. But at the defensive end spot, you need help. Now, what do? Let's talk about the options. That's the 49ers D-line. Let's talk about the exterior options. What's possible? What's not possible? All right, you only have 24 hours. Jalen Phillips today went to the Eagles. So Dolphins also have Bradley Chubb. You could try to get Bradley Chubb from the Dolphins. But let's take a look first at the Bengals. Hendrickson, the one thing, I think Lynch has scars from how watching Chase Young dog it after he traded for him. I think he only wants to trade for defensive ends who are just the motor is just just absolutely unbelievable. And Trey Hendrickson's that guy. But the question is, one, what do they want? It sounds like they want a number one. The latest report is Diana Rossini said they'll take, maybe teams are waiting to see if they'll get real and take a 2 or less for Hendrickson, who's a free agent at the end of the year. Does Cincinnati really want to hold on to him for the rest of the year and then let him walk at the end of the year? They didn't really come to any kind of an agreement. They just paid him for the year. And the expectation is he's going to walk at the end of the year. So then the other question is, do you really want to pay big money for a guy who, why is he not on the field right now? I mean, the Niners have a game against the Rams Sunday. Can he be there? Can he play? Or does he have an injury? He had an injury last week. So, can he play? How healthy is he? So there's that. Then, there's some other players there that the 49ers, Cam Taylor-Britt, their corner, was a second-round pick in 2022. The understanding from the people I talked to is the Niners wanted Cam Taylor-Britt in the second round in 2022, and that Cincinnati traded up with Buffalo and knew the Niners wanted Cam Taylor-Britt. And their intel, and they took Cam Taylor-Britt in front of the Niners, and the Niners were forced to take Drake Jackson at the next pick. Now, I don't have Lynch on the record saying that, but I believe that to be true. And now there's talk that maybe they're interested in Cam Taylor-Britt. They could use more coverage in another corner. And Cam Taylor-Britt is a big, athletic, tough, hard-hitting corner, physical dominant, and he's versatile. So that would be interesting. And then, of course, they also have Logan Wilson, who's has another injury, but he's a run and hit linebacker, and you can never have enough good run and hit linebackers, even though Nick Martin can't get on the field. I don't know how Logan Wilson is going to get on the field, but that's interesting. So Cincinnati is an interesting team because they have three pieces there that could interest the Niners. And even if the Niners just went Hendrickson and Taylor-Britt, that would be an incredible get. That would be Hendricks. I mean, and if you're sitting there going, should they or shouldn't they, as far as the 49ers, they should. And here's why they should. They should make a big trade and go after somebody because they have a ton of room under the cap. Kittle is not going to be better in the future. Williams is not going to be better in the future. CMC is not going to be better in the future. They're all not going to be better. This is they're still in their prime. So now I think is the go time. Plus, you have more compensatory picks coming your way. I think you have 4 fourth-round picks in next year's draft. Plus, there's a failure rate to these picks, as we all know firsthand, because of every Ty Davis Price, Trey Sermon, Joe Williams, Dante Pettis, Jalen Hurd. Sorry, I can go on naming the guys who were day 2 picks that failed. So I'm not in this like, oh my God, they're going to trade a second-round pick. They have blown enough second-round picks where it probably would be wise to get the sure thing in Trey Hendrickson. But the big question, I think, with Hendrickson is, do you want to pay $70 million next year to 2 edge rushers in a cap sport? And I think the answer probably is no. And I definitely know the Niners aren't going to trade that number 1. So if Cincinnati's thinking they're going to bow and get a number 1, they're not. 49ers are going to draft an offensive tackle or somebody special with that number 1. They're not trading it here. So I think that kind of puts Cincinnati, maybe on the back burner. All right. So who else might make sense for the 49ers? It's always hard to say exactly. But I think the Jets make a lot of sense. Now, the Jets have come out and said that they don't want to move Will McDonald IV. And maybe they're serious about that because he's a really good young player. And I don't doubt that, that Aaron Glenn wants to keep every good young player he possibly can. But doesn't mean that that the Jets are worth hanging up on, because they also have Quinnen Williams, who I think is the kind of interior player that probably is worth investing in. He's a monster. The Niners have always looked to upgrade their D-line. Getting Quinnen Williams and having him into the future as your anchor up front would be a really, really smart move. I think the Jets, this guy's an awesome player, and who has to be, doubled. And he's a really good interior rusher. He's a big old war daddy inside. He's one of the best defensive tackles in football. If the Jets want to move him, I would and he's young, and Robert Saleh knows him. Yes, Quinnen Williams. And if I could make a big deal with the Jets, I would be interested, because they also have Jermaine Johnson, who's a very, very good two-way defensive end. Loved Jermaine Johnson in college at Florida State. He is tough, really tough. And he can play the run, and he can burn the edge. Now, he's not the edge burner that McDonald is. McDonald's lighter, 240, and he's like, freak of nature athlete. This guy can do like handstands and back flips. And you were talking about one of the great athletes who play in the college game. He was definitely on the Bruce Feldman freaks list Will McDonald IV is a freak. In a lot of ways, he's a younger version of Bryce Huff. Smaller edge rusher, but so bendy, so athletic, so freaking amazing off the edge that even when you're doing a good job, you can whiff on this guy. He's got movement ability that's next level. So that's why they want to keep him, of course. That's also why you'd want to get him. And then the third guy has to be mentioned is Mykel Clemens. And I'm a big A&M fan, so I've watched a lot of this guy. And this guy is a bad A. I'm telling you, man, this guy, if I think this is the sleeper pick in some ways at the deadline. Why? Because he's totally gettable. He's got exactly the physical profile that would succeed in the wide nine. He's an emotional player, and Chris is an emotional coach. This guy may start a fight in the tunnel with the other team on the way to the field, but he is a bad A. 6'5", 265, 28 years old, and is what I would call the super prime of an NFL career. And he is just not been on a good team, not been with the right coach, not been with the right surrounding cast. There's a lot of talent in there, man. There's a lot of talent in there. And the fact that Saleh knows him, and that I think Kasarik could be the coach that unleashes that talent, I think this is the sleeper guy at the trade deadline because he's totally gettable. Everybody's talking about Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson. The Jets, we want a third for Jermaine Johnson. You know what? Can't do it. Can't do it. How about this? So we'll give you a 7th round pick for Clemens. Done. And then get this guy. Or pay the big draft price and go get Mykel Williams and have him throw in Mykel Clemens. But Mykel Clemens is nasty. He's nasty. I mean, he can rush the passer. He's emotional. But he's tough. He plays with fire, and I really like him. He's just not been. I'd love to know what Robert Saleh. I could always ask him at the podium. Hey, Robert, what do you think of Mykel Clemens? And he'll give me the whatever whatever publicly. Oh, Michael's a good guy, and this and that. But I'd love to be, just having a beer with Saleh with no microphones around and just be like, bro, what do you think of Clemens? Because then you'd get his real answer. And I bet you Robert Saleh loves Mykel Clemens. I bet you he loves it because Robert Saleh is the all gas, no brakes. He's kind of a badass himself. So, and Clemens is that. He is a badass. And he's just underachieved. He's been on these bad teams. He's been, I don't know. There's reasons for it, scheme fits and whatnot. But I just think in the wide nine, very simple scheme. And, Chris, who's just a fireball of a coach. I mean, if I go to Niner practice, I'm absolutely going to stand over by the D-line because Chris is just entertainment. He's and then he's also getting very technical. You can tell he's like very technical, with his hand placement and showing these guys exactly how he wants it done. But then it brings so much fire, so much energy. It's like you got to practice at a certain level when Chris is your coach. And I just think, I know personalities, and Clemens has that kind of personality that if you put him on a line with some of the Niners still have a lot of good players, and you put him on a good line, with Saleh and Chris screaming at him, I think he might be able to really I think he could really surprise people. I think you could be like 4 or 5 weeks after the trade deadline going, what? Why do the Jets want to get rid of Mykel Clemens? He looks really good. I'm telling you, he was really good at Texas A&M, and he's really dominant physically. So, I think that's a match made in heaven right there. Chris Kasarik coaching Mykel Clemens, but I don't know how Chris feels about him, and I don't know how Robert Saleh feels about him, and I'm sure Robert Saleh has feelings about him because he coached him. So I'm sure, and he's aware of how Clemens can be really kind of hard to rein in sometimes. But if you can rein him in and you've got him pointed in the right direction, you've got something really special there that at a really reduced price. So that's the Jets, I think, are interesting. Okay, so they're a team, I think, and when you look at the trade deadline between the Niners and what they may or may not do, I think the Jets are a team to watch. One other team that I think, so a lot of people are going to say Trey Hendricks Hendrickson. I get that. And I'm sure the Niners would love him, but the price tag could be really high. And then you got to wonder about, are you going to extend him after this year? And then are you giving a second-round pick for a rental? And then if not, can you afford to pay $70 million to him and Bosa? What does it mean for Bosa in the future? What does it, you got to, they kind of have to make like structural decisions on how they're going to structure their cap and their D line in the midst of the season like this, which is not easy to do. Shanahan's game planning. He's the central figure in the organization. You know what I mean? It's like he's it's like he's got to make these decisions on the fly. But that could be, when you're thinking about some of these names that are potentially out there at the trade deadline, and their need and their desire to improve their football team, I'm sure they're looking at all and every option. One other one I want to go through, and that's Tennessee. And I just think Tennessee is a team that, makes a lot of sense for the 49ers to deal with. I mean, one, they're two teams going in totally different directions. And this team's got players that can really help the 49ers on both sides of the ball. I mean, there's a lot of talk that they're going to move one of their running backs. They have Tony Pollard, who's a great receiver on the backfield, and Tyjae Spears, who's a really nice young running back. I've always loved Tyjae Spears. And you have Garendo, and you could give them Garendo. They are kind of a developmental team. Could you get Tony Pollard or Tyjae Spears in a deal for Garendo? That's something I would want to talk about, because right now you got Garendo active, but you don't trust him, and I wouldn't either. He fumbles. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just a big, fast athlete. But he's got value to maybe a developmental team like the Titans, where Tony Pollard or Tyjae Spears the Niners have to find another back. Maybe it's Elijah Mitchell. Maybe it's Tony Pollard. Maybe it's Tyjae Spears. Maybe it's Robinson. They have to have another back outside of Christian finishing these games. You cannot have Christian in the fourth quarter taking this back's going to get crushed carries. That has to go to somebody else. Cannot go to Christian anymore. And then offensively, if the Niners, not that they're going to move offensive linemen, but Kevin Zeitler, gosh, I really think Kevin Zeitler would be a smart pickup. Now, I don't know if he's even available, but he's a veteran, tough guy guard. If the Niners are going to win it all, let's have a game plan. Let's strategize. Let's use our brains. How are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? I think they're going to have to do it running the ball. And you got Christian. If you added a guy like Zeitler to your line, man, he's such an old school throwback tough guy added to their line. That would, to me, I think that would really help. They also have Pete Skoronski, by the way, the Northwestern kid. I love Skoronski. I don't think that they're trading him, though. I think they're probably keeping him. There's also talk about Calvin Ridley. I don't think they're moving him. But let's look to the defensive side, because that's what the Niners are looking for the most part. And there's talk they don't want to move Jeffrey Simmons. I get it. He's all world. Why would you want to move him? Now he's hurt. Arden Key's got a quad injury, but he's very much the kind of player that the 49ers should want. They've already had him. They kind of know that he can help out. But it doesn't end there. I think this team is a good team to look at for other guys as well. They have Jihad Ward, the former Raider. And Jihad Ward right now is playing really well. And he's a gigantic guy. He's 6'6", 285. They list him here as an outside linebacker. He's a pass rusher at 285. Jihad Ward would be a great addition. Nobody said his name one time, I realize. But we're working at Tennessee right now. And I do believe Tennessee is a seller for sure. And they've got some pieces that match up. Arden Key, for sure. Jihad Ward, for sure. They match up. Sebastian Joseph Day has been a Niner before, so that's obviously a no-brainer. They obviously like him. And then there's been some talk this week that they're going to move T'Vondre Sweat. Now, Sweat had a DUI or something off the field at one point, but this guy is a monster, and this guy is worth having. I absolutely would go after this guy. If the Titans are going to move this guy, I would absolutely be first in line. Just look at the profile: 6'4", 366, 24 years of age. I watched this guy at Texas. This guy's not a house. This guy's not an apartment. This guy's not a condominium. This guy's a condominium complex. I mean, he is just a monster. This guy's a plot of land. I mean, this is one of the widest players you're ever going to see in the world. And he played at Texas. Kyle loves the Texas guys. But I think he'd be a great guy for the Niners. And we're talking about, young, fast linebackers. Who's going to keep bodies off of Fred? Who's going to keep bodies off of Winters? Who's going to keep bodies off of Nick Martin? Who's going to keep the bodies off of those second-level defenders? The Niners have a pass rushing front, but man, this guy is a monster. And if they're really moving him, man, I would definitely, on my way to finding edge rushers, I'd be like, let's work out something for Tavondre as well. He is big time, very strong, immovable. That's a difference maker on your front. That really is. That guy's super strong. To me, Tavondre Sweat could be the ideal guy to play next to Mykel Williams inside. You get Mykel and Tavondre, and you get Huff, and you get Bosa, and now you're talking. And you say, well, Krug, what about the guys they got now? The guys they got now, none of those guys, the 49er guys, are under contract. The Jordan Elliott's, the Givens, Kalia, all those guys. I mean, they're all moving on, most likely at some, in the off season. They have nobody locked up really in the interior. So just an idea, but I mean, I think the Titans, really could help you. And they also, by the way, have Sam Womack over here on the corner. So if you had second thoughts about your decision to let Womack out of the building, your original draft choice, he's a good player. And I would take Sam Womack right now, especially since he's, not starting on their bench. Maybe NFL at this point on defense is a rush and cover game. There's two things you got to do. You got to produce a rush up front, and then you got to be able to cover on the back end, and that's it. It's a passing game. It's very much a passing game. If you can't defend the pass in the NFL, you have no chance. So what does that mean? It means you got to have pass rushers and you got to have corners. You got to have as many corners as you can possibly have. You got to have the best coverage, tightest coverage you can possibly have. It's a cover game on the back end, and you can't fake coverage. You got to have real dudes. And then you got to move that quarterback off his spot. If he sits back there, if Matthew Stafford gets into an NFC Championship game against the Niners and he's allowed to sit back there just uninterrupted, the Niners are going to get their doors blown off, and Devontae Adams got 3 touchdowns, and Puka's going to have 18 catches for 210 yards, and it's going to be ugly. You have to be able to move the quarterback and cover the receivers. So the D-line and the corners, that's where I'd be looking. And then, as I mentioned before, you gotta find some running back. If it's not Brian Robinson, then I don't know what you're doing with Guerendo. To me, you got to use Guerendo's roster spot to turn that into a running back that you can finish with. The Niners miss Elijah Mitchell. If you could get him back, I would take him back. Somebody that Shanahan has belief in that can take those carries, because they're going to beat Carolina. They're going to beat some of these teams down the stretch. They're going to win some games down the stretch, and they're going to need to run the ball in the fourth quarter with somebody not named McCaffrey if they also want to win the Super Bowl. Because you can't run McCaffrey in the fourth quarter to finish out games all season long and then also ride him as your key guy in January. I mean, it's just, he's awesome, but he ain't that awesome. He can't do that. He's just not going to be able to do that. And that's, I don't think that's my opinion. I think that's pretty much, that's a lot of people's thoughts. So Tavondre Sweat would be very, very interesting. Let's do this. Let's tell you that this 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. And thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, I'm on this other screen. I haven't even looked over at the chat. But guys, thank you for all the comments. A lot of comments. We got this guy, was it Briscoe here, saying sweat would help. Sweat would work. There you go. Some people fighting with each other. All right. You always got somebody fighting. Everybody's always fighting. All right, let's hit this one. John Tyler GG says, sue the Giants for gross negligence. Contracts don't cover that. Criminal at this point would take a ton of money based on how much money they cost. Is he talking about the injury to Mykel being caused by the turf? Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL we're in a period of time. I mean, the NFL got big in the 60s, 70s, really grew up in the 80s. And there were some terrible fields. I mean, just unbelievable fields. And the fields now are way better, but this is the worst turf field. There's a million different concerts and everything on there. It's worn down, super tough. It's really, it's now kind of known for its bad surface. What I don't get is when you're spending this much money on players and you have this kind of revenue that these teams create, and you're seeing the value of these franchises go up to the point where the franchises are going up by, hundreds of millions of dollars every year. So these are billions. This has become, it's a $25 billion, or it's probably more. It's probably more like a $50 billion industry. That was a $10 billion industry not that long ago, which was a $2 billion industry not that long before that. It's exploding. It's one of the healthiest, most burgeoning markets in all of America. The NFL is absolutely, they have so much money, they don't know what to do with it. That's why you think they always kind of take this, it's my way or the highway approach with everything, because it's like they just take things over because they're that big. The NBA is big on Christmas Day, and finally Goodell's like, oh yeah, Christmas Day is big. All right, let's go over there. NBA, done. Now the NFL owns Christmas Day. So it's just they're the biggest. They're the big bully on the block. Everybody, they got an incredible product, and it's the biggest thing. And I don't know why. I mean, even if it costs $3 million to have a grass surface that you rolled in there on game day, it would be worth it. Look how valuable your players are. Look how valuable your product is. So what? So you're spending 50 to $60 million a year on turf and turf transitioning, every week. Who cares? In the grand scheme of what you're making, it's a drop in the bucket. And you're talking about the safety of your athletes. They are the product. They're the reason people watch. Yeah, that's a treacherous turf, and they should get rid of it. And the league, even if they didn't want to make the Giants and Jets, who are that's their home stadium, obviously it's their responsibility. But the league has enough revenue; they should say, hey, you know what? This field doesn't meet the same standards as our other fields, so we are going to foot the bill. The league, who is just minting money, we are going to foot the bill for them to have. They have eight home games or 9 home games. They're playing there no more than 12 times over the year, playoffs, preseason, regular season. We're talking about a dozen dates. We're going to spend $2 million is probably what it takes to take the surface, brand new surface, lay it on top, do it all, regulation, test it. It would probably cost about $2 million a game. Do it. Do it. I mean, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. You're not willing to spend $25 million to keep your athletes safe, to have, I mean, I understand you can't, it's not easy to erect a $4 billion brand new stadium in the middle of New Jersey. I get that. There's limitations, there's roads, all the different things. The stadium's built. Fine. We're not really talking about the stadium. I could give a damn about the stadium. We're talking about the surface. We're talking about the athletes. We're talking about a certain standard. Yeah, I mean, guys used to play, on cement, in Rucker Park in the summer, but doesn't mean the NBA has a team playing on cement. It's like they try to do the best they can do to have the best facilities possible. We got this one from Chardal. SGA Sports Talk channel has become a YouTube member. Chardal, welcome aboard. We've got Silent in the house. Says, if Lynch does not trade for defensive ends, is the season done? That's a great question. And that leads me to my last point here. And Silent, I just want everybody to know, Silent and I are not working together. Though we did just finalize a business plan or a business proposition with his $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Silent. But it leads me to, where do the Niners go if we know what we know today is that Mykel Williams is gone for the year. What we don't know today is if Trey Hendrickson is on the verge of being a 49er, or if anybody else, Michael Clemens or Jermaine Johnson or Bradley Chubb or Carl Granderson or Arden Key. We don't know if anybody. I would imagine John Lynch is going to do something. Why? Because he is the general manager in the league that has popularized the midseason trade. And because of all the reasons I said before, Trent, Kittle, all these guys, CMC, they're not getting any younger. They're go times now. And the Super Bowl's at home, and the NFC's flawed. Green Bay lost this weekend. Detroit lost this weekend. Everybody's got flaws. I said I like the Rams. Their quarterback's ancient. So I mean, it's like I like Seattle. Their quarterback's Darnold. I mean, I'm not saying that Darnold's not good, but Darnold is just all right. Though he was amazing. He was amazing in the game last night. As I say, he's just all right, but he is just all right. So what other directions can the Niners go? Now you got to really get creative. What if they get shut out? What if they get shut out? As Silent is saying, if Lynch doesn't trade for a defensive end, is the season done? It's done if they don't get help. Okay. So then the question is, where is help out there that's not on the trade market? And I'm not going to sit there and say I'm some pro personnel director. I mean, if I could get an NFL pro personnel director on here, we could have a real meaningful discussion about, who's available, how he has everybody graded, how his scouts have everybody graded, so on and so forth. I can just give you some anecdotal information on guys that I like, okay, that I see that are out there. So I'm gonna give you a couple examples. And because you know me, I am that sick guy that does know this much about NFL personnel. All right, here's the Ravens. This is the Baltimore Ravens. Eric DeCosta is one of the best general managers in pro football. They always have good players, and they have a good practice squad, and they always make sure that they have good players. So let's look at who they have in their practice squad. And by the way, Teddy Buchanan, SI Wildcat, has been fantastic at weak side linebacker for the Ravens. Mike Green, not so much. He's not had a great year. But look at this. Look at these rookies. Aeneas Peebles is awesome. Malachi Starks, Teddy Buchanan, and Mike Green. Eric DeCosta is an awesome GM. Really is a good GM. Let's look at the practice squad. That's what we're here for. What do they got? Oh, yep. They got this guy. They got two guys that are interesting. They've got Carl Lawson, the former SEC star who's torn up his knee a couple times, I believe. He's played for the Jets, though, so there may be a Robert Saleh crossover there. Coming from the Cowboys, he's a veteran. If you want the veteran edge guy that's done it, he's not the same athlete that he used to be. Carl Lawson is there. But they also have a rookie here, and this is the guy that I like. This is Kamon Rucker from North Carolina. And 6'1", 265, but he just has a pass rushing knack. He's a little short, as you can see there by the 6'1". But man, I love this guy at North Carolina. He's 23. He can burn the edge. He's worth a flyer. That is a guy worth taking right there if you could get him off of Baltimore's practice squad. And that would probably be That would be one of the guys one of two that I'd have my eye on. K'Mon Rucker. Because I think if you're the 49ers, you don't just want to pluck somebody off for a day. I mean, Carl Lawson would be good for a couple weeks. But if you're going to pluck somebody off somebody else's practice squad, you're probably going to piss off Eric DeCosta a little bit. So it better be somebody worth doing it for. And K'Mon Rucker might be a good defensive end prospect for the Niners, and he could be a good player for them for years to come. So I like, as you see, outside backers, we've not quite the scheme fit, but he's got the body at 265, and you're gonna have to probably coach him up a little bit. I'm putting his hand in the dirt, but I love the burst and the motor and the production at Carolina. K'Mon Rucker is a good player. Okay, so that's one guy that you could potentially go after on a practice squad that's that wouldn't cost you anything. There's one more I'm going to throw out, and this is a guy I'm a big fan of. Let's go to Tampa's practice squad, and people can take a look at that. Let's see if you can get that. Yeah, there we go. We got that on the screen. Okay, so we go to Tampa's practice squad, and let's go down a little bit. There it is. Okay. They have at edge Muhammad Kamara. And Muhammad Kamara played at Colorado State. I really like this player. 6'1". He's kind of the exact same build. Exact same build in a very similar game. He's like a young Bryce Huff. Colorado State edge rusher. Really good for the Rams. 6'1", 260. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Marcus Golden, who played at Missouri, played with the Cardinals. Just burns the edge. And he's strong. And he's 26. He's on the practice squad in Tampa. This would be the guy I'd go after. Muhammad Kamara. About 6'1", about 260, it's about 255, 260. He literally is the exact same build as Bryce Huff. And in a lot of ways, he's a very similar guy. He's crazy athletic, can get almost parallel to the ground. He can really dip the shoulder, but he's got big time balance and flexibility in his ankles. And this guy can turn the corner and flatten to the quarterback like very few. And I love the motor. Guy plays like with his hair on fire. So he's on Tampa's practice squad. Tampa's got other guys there that might be interesting in trades. But if you can't make a trade, I'd say K'Mon Rucker from Baltimore, Muhammad Kamara from Tampa. Those are the two guys that I think I'd be most interested in. I mean, I haven't really studied it off every team's practice squad, but those guys I know are out there, and I think they'd be good. I think both those guys could give you, play in a rotation. I don't know if they can give you, 50 snaps, but I think they could give you 25 really good ones. And you got to have somebody running at the quarterback who's got some speed and a motor. Or it could be a really long day. And why is this so important? Well, the reason it's so important is that the 49ers are just a very young football team in the secondary. I mean, the 49ers are just one of the youngest, defensive secondaries in the league. They're really, I mean, you look at the roster right now, 49ers in the secondary, Upton Stout, rookie. Demo Lenore is the veteran. He was a 2021 draft choice. Mustafa, 2024 draft choice. Jair, 2023 draft choice. I thought Jair played well yesterday. Renardo, I thought played great yesterday. 2024 draft choice. Darrell Luter, 2023 draft choice. Marquis Siegel, he's a rookie. So, I mean, you got a lot of young talent there that you've invested picks in. You've got a 3rd round pick, a 5th round pick, a 4th, a 3rd, a 2nd, a 5th, another 5th. You got a bunch of picks invested in your defensive backfield. And because you like those guys. I heard Lynch the other day talking up Marquis Siegel, who didn't play at all in this last game, who's kind of, right now, he's kind of the guy, the odd man out. He got some run. He got burnt a little bit. Now he's back on the bench. But he's got 4.37 speed, and he loves to hit, and he's athletic. He's going to be a good player. It's just going to takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to develop these guys. But they don't develop if there's no pass rush up front. They don't develop if they've got to cover for 10 seconds. Nobody can do that, and then they start losing confidence. So it's really important that the 49ers get some edge rush up front because they've got a lot of young DBs that are going to lose their confidence if Stafford is allowed to just stand back there and pick them apart. And that's what's going to happen. So Muhammad Kamara came on Rucker. If you got to go practice squad, there's a lot of different options in the trade market. And I don't think the 49ers should or would trade their first round draft choice. So Shanahan's going to talk at 3. So we'll take a timeout right here for a little bit. And we'll get ready for the presser. We'll do a little quick live right after the Shanahan presser. And then Grant and I will go live on his channel after sometime in the late afternoon, probably around 4:00 or so. And then I was going to say at 6:00, you can hear me on KMBR Niners Nightly, but actually tonight we're on after the Monday night game. So we'll be on at 8:30, 8:30 on the radio from 8:30 to 9:30. And then I'm not sure if we're streaming tonight with Dieter, but I'll send him a text and see if he's up to stream it. If so, we'll be streaming tonight with Dieter after the Monday night game. So a lot going on the Krug Show. Thanks to Kev. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to, of course, Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And we should probably also mention, why don't we do this? We'll also mention our Habbas Law sponsorship because Habbas Law has done a great job. And Habbas Law this weekend, by the way, sponsored the San Jose State Hawaii game, and we gave away tickets to that game. So congratulations if you were one of the people that got a chance to go to San Jose State Hawaii, courtesy of Habbas Law. But Habbas Law is awesome, and they're one of the newest sponsors on the Krug Show. You guys have heard me talk about my deceased father. He was an attorney, and he was a very good attorney. He worked for the city of San Francisco for 40 years. And my dad loved the law, and he always used to say, the difference between success and failure in life is having the right or wrong attorney. And I really do believe that the more I live life. But anyway, these guys are great. Omar and Tarek Habbas are fantastic. They're rooted here in Northern California. They're connected to the Giants, San Jose State, the Sharks, Santa Clara, the Earthquakes. They're very charitable. They did some animal rescue stuff, paying for adoptions of animals a few weeks ago. They're rooted here in the community, which is why they sponsored San Jose State and Hawaii the other night. So if you're in need of someone in your corner, call the firm that insurance companies hope you never call, and that's Habbas Law. They're going to fight to make it right. Visit them on the web at habbaslaw.com, 1-800-INJURED for Habbas Law. And thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to them for doing the stuff in the community that not everybody does. You'd like to think everybody does, but it's just not the way it is. So thanks to Habbas Law. And once again, 1-800-INJURED. And somebody joked with me the other day, is that the 49ers number, 1-800-INJURED? Oh, stop. Killing me with that. Killing me. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Have a great rest of your Monday afternoon. Time for me to rewatch the second half one more time before the Shanahan presser. So we'll talk to you. This is not goodbye for very long, but just goodbye for the moment.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for.